Learning another language is like opening a new world. Alina Paul. Learning a foreign language is important for cultural understanding, but only 25% of Americans can speak a foreign language, and the American school system is poorly teaching students to become fluent in another language. I chose this topic because it is a goal of mine to be able to speak a second language, but after taking 3 years of language in school, I still cannot speak it or understand much of the language. I took Spanish in class, but I don't understand a word of it. My first point is that only 25% of Americans know how to speak the foreign language, which isn't that many. My second point is that schools in the United States do not teach a foreign language very well. My third point is that not knowing a foreign language hinders cultural understanding when traveling or communicating with different countries. Only 25% of Americans can speak a foreign language, as opposed to the 73% of Europeans that can speak a foreign language. And of that percentage, the European countries require to learn 2 foreign languages in their schools. And this is in the primary education system, so most of them are starting when they are around 6. So when they begin kindergarten, they are learning another language already. Language is not well taught in American school systems. In foreign countries, many students start learning at that elementary school level, which is easier to pick up because that's when you're starting to develop the language part of your brain. However, in in the United States, you don't learn until you're in high school, when you already have developed your language and you're very confident in your English. The latest a European country starts learning a foreign language is 11 years old, and that is in the United Kingdom. Most of the time in American school systems, you can't start learning a foreign language till you're in 8th grade. There are very low rates of learning a foreign language in elementary school systems, and most of those are in private schools where most kids don't have access to that because they cannot afford the private school education. Budget cuts in the school system are also a reason that students are put at a disadvantage when learning a foreign language. Foreign language is very highly debated on whether or not it is important. And in fact, many students, when they are required to take a foreign language, some students decide to take Latin, which is a dead language, but it's useful if you're going into the medical field, but it's not useful when you're trying to communicate with others outside of the United States or that don't know how to speak English. Most of the European countries are learning English as a second language, but still only 6% of the world knows how to speak English, which is a lot, but not enough for us to be able to communicate too much outside of our comfort zone. In the United States, you don't start learning till you're in high school, and most of the time when you are in high school, you are learning the grammar of the language, not learning to speak the actual language. And because of this, only 7% of Americans who can speak a language fluently said they learned it in school. When you learn the grammar of the language, usually it is after you have learned the words and the basic concepts of putting together a sentence when learning that language. Think about it. When you were 3 years old, did you know how to properly put together a sentence with the correct grammar? Probably not. But you knew how to get your point across and how to talk to your parents and others. This is why it is important to start learning a language young, because although you might not have the best grammar in that language, you know how to speak it and correctly put forth your ideas in that language. When you're traveling, it hinders your cultural understanding if you don't understand the foreign language. Globalization has brought people closer together around the world, and it is much easier to communicate with different countries, but it is important to understand their cultures, and language fluency is the start of that. When you understand their culture and their language, we can more amicably coexist with them, and that would benefit with world peace. Knowing a foreign language allows true access for understanding the culture, because if you don't understand the language, how are you supposed to understand what they're doing? Knowing a foreign language also gives you an edge in the workplace because it could help employees outside of the U.S. communicate with future clients or customers, even inside of the United States. The United States is considered a melting pot, so you can imagine that there are many people who can speak a foreign language, but they're not from here, and it might be helpful if someone that they are talking to in the workplace speak their language and understand what they're going through culturally and the culture shock that they are in. In conclusion, it would be beneficial to increase the amount of people speaking a foreign language by bettering the way it is taught in school, and it would increase the cultural understanding in the United States. The first point I talked about was that only 25% of Americans know how to speak a foreign language, and most of that is from the home. My second point is that it is not taught very well in schools in the United States. My third main point is that it hinders cultural understanding when traveling or communicating with different countries. Learning another language can broaden your horizons when understanding cultures around the world.